forget what you've heard about Vietnam. Let's find out what it's really like.
Imagine an economy that, in the span of a few decades, catapulted from one of the poorest in Asia to a growth rate of 8.02% in 2022, outpacing even the giants of India and China. This isn't a hypothetical scenario. It's the reality of Vietnam. With a GDP per capita that increased nearly tenfold from under $300 in the 1980s to $2,800 in 2020.
What's up there, niece and nephew? It's the Rick James of Expat Relocation.
And for that girl backstage, never mind who you thought I was. I'm Rick James, bitch.
I am here with one of our clients I wanted you guys to meet. He has a wild story. He had initially come out to Vietnam himself. He had tried to gain some employment up in the north of Vietnam, and he had a pretty negative experience. He had been a fan of the show for quite some time, and he went back to his native country of the UK and ended up contacting us. And at the time that he was looking for employment, we had a plug that was able to get him into a nice little beach town, kind of near to Nha Trang. Very relaxed little environment. He's now settled out there and decided that he wants to stay out there, and he's coming over to Cambodia to chill with us. So we figured we'd take this opportunity to do some content together and talk about what his experience has been thus far. He's going to be returning with this new employer now and a new business visa, and he's decided to make this town the place that he hangs out for a while. We helped him get initially set up out there, and he decided to stay, and now he's moving up in the world out there and expanding his network out there, and it's turning into a really good place for him. So we're going to hear about this story, what took him from the negative experience up in Hanoi and what inevitably led him to finding this town, working with us, and realizing that this is a place he might actually want to stay for a while. What initially interested you in Vietnam, and what about Vietnam kind of drew you to it, right? Was it about the teaching? Was it just about making money in a cheap place? Did you already know about Vietnam? Do you have some connection to Vietnam? And then maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you decided you were going to come over and teach in the first place.
Yeah, man. So I was originally inspired to come to Vietnam and teach through a couple of friends in the UK who had already gone through the TEFL experience, and one of them had lived in Ho Chi Minh City for 4 years. Another one was working at the time also in the middle of Vietnam. So they showed me an alternative to a situation I was going through, not knowing what I was passionate about in the UK in terms of my direction in life. Doing quite well with engineering and electrics with my family. However, I was never really passionate about it. So I was, for a few years actually, looking outside the box a little bit at different options and looking for my next chapter in life, really, that took me away from the family business situation I've been in for 14 years in the trades. And stumbling across your channel and researching it more on YouTube, I got more confident with the idea of stepping into it. I took the consultation with you as well before the Bac Giang Experience. However, as you mentioned, that went pretty wild with probably the most sociopathic, crazy employer you could imagine, giving me literally abuse on text messages after working crazy hours for her on her terms, keeping my 4th month's salary just because I said I might want to go home and see my family after 4 months. Lots of crazy stuff, really. So that was a bit of a kick in the teeth. And went back to England, kind of with my tail between my legs, bit disgruntled with the whole thing, really. But then I got back in touch with you and went for the full service, where you helped me feel very confident coming back to Vietnam. I'd pretty much made most of the mistakes you could make as a new teacher on my first experience. So learning from those mistakes and having the support which you guys offered as part of your service was a real confidence booster for me. And it really did put me in a good headspace to come back and find, I think it was 5 or 6 different offers before I accepted the one I thought best suited me in Tuy Hoa, Phu Yen. And as you said, now I'm a lot more comfortable, happy, and just managed to find a second employer, and they've offered me another 4 months working in Tuy Hoa, where I've got some good friends, relations, and it's a really beautiful, natural spot which suits me personally. I like it with the mountains close to the beach. You can ride out on your bike, and within half an hour, northeast, well, not east, you'll be in the ocean, but you go anywhere around land and there's some beautiful views, and it's just incredible, really. So I've really enjoyed this second effort at teaching, and yeah, I don't really think I'd be where I'm at right now without the support I've had from Reborn abroad with Jay and Nish, and the support's ongoing as well, even with small issues I had with late payments and just advice on where to stay. For example, even in Cambodia today, like this week, I've had support with suggestions on places to go. It's an ongoing service, right? So once you've made that payment, it feels like it gives you value back constantly, which I've felt really grateful for. And it's just put me in, like I say, a good headspace where I feel confident and I know how to transition from one business visa to the next now without worrying or feeling, uninformed, unaware of how to do things. Because the biggest struggle, I think, coming here to Vietnam is the amount of change and how different all of it is compared to most Western countries, especially England, where there's just a lot of things you have to tweak your brain to get used to, which if you don't practice getting used to it, you can react and be like, what the and it's just like, it's a bit of a culture shock, literally, because there's so much that's different. But the benefits by far outweigh the negatives for me coming here and working. And I've got a passion for teaching, which helps a lot. Whereas I never really felt that working in the trades. And when you compare the salary and the wage you get as a teacher here to what you get even working a skilled labouring job in the UK, I've got plenty of friends who work 50, 60 hours and they're literally budgeting on an extreme level because of the disparity between the cost of living in that country and here. And it really is almost yin and yang, chalk and cheese. It's so different. You can get so much more for your money here. And that's before you talk about the beautiful culture, community, you name it. There's so many bonuses here. Gets you out of the mire of the political weirdness that's going on in the West as well, in my opinion. It just allows me to not have that in my head at all and focus on what I want to do with my life, and I can take it step by step with enough free time to enjoy my hobbies, my friends, my own free time, as well as, all the other benefits that come with living in Vietnam and working in Asia. Yeah, probably the best thing I've done in my life in the last 2 years. And it's hard to imagine how I would have got here without the support that Reborn abroad and Jay and Mish have given me. So it really did. It's almost a priceless experience for me. And now, excited for my next 4 months, and I'm excited for the next 4 years, really, because it can easily snowball into something bigger and better. And it's something a lot of people, I think, should consider, because if the West's getting a bit heavy and a bit too much with the political issues and the culture and the way it is, you can get away from it, and you can get yourself some headspace away from all the nonsense, and you can feel and be valued as a teacher here if you want to teach English. The best thing I've done in years, so always happy and grateful.
One thing I've learned living as an expat for so many years is you will definitely get sick. And if it's your first time living in a developing country, I strongly recommend you have some reliable health insurance. That's why we partner with Safety Wing. Our link is in the description below. They're a health insurance company designed for nomads, designed for people who live the same lifestyle as us, who are out there actually living their lives and pursuing new opportunities and new destinations. Safety Wing is a great transitional health insurance until you can arrive in the country and figure out what you can get domestically. They're designed for people who move around and who travel, so it's the perfect health insurance for people who live our kind of lifestyle. You have tremendous lifestyle opportunities in these places. Don't let getting sick mess you up. Your first couple of years in a developing country, you will definitely get sick. And having a reliable health insurance can be the difference between spending thousands of dollars or coming away pretty clean. So that was great. That was really informative. Lots of great information, and we definitely appreciate the love. I'm glad that the service was helpful. It's always nice when things work the way they're supposed to work. And, we do our best to try to make sure the outcomes are always positive for the clients. We have had some clients who, no matter what we try to do for them, they don't want to help themselves. But this is a great situation where, he took our advice, everything went the way it was supposed to go, and now he feels like he's made the right choice for himself. And I totally understand where he's coming from with getting away from the whole political insanity, because I like to watch this stuff kind of in like the way you would watch WWF or like monster trucks or something, right? I like really enjoy the circus of it, but I enjoy the circus of it from far away where it's not affecting me. I'm not in it, right? And, I'm not involved. I don't have like any real attachment to it aside from my passport, and I'm already working on my second passport. So, there is a big world out there, guys. And if that is something that you don't like, is like certain things happening in your society, there are all these different countries and they do offer different cultures. So I would say, like, let's talk a little bit about some of the positives and negatives that you experienced dealing with the Vietnamese in terms of like employment and business. Let's talk a little bit about the first experience, the one before you used our service, when we just initially spoke, right? Because we initially spoke, and then I think you took the job in Hanoi, and then later the job near Hanoi didn't work out and you came back, and that's when we officially worked together. So that would have been right before we set you up in the beach town. So guys, I want to get a little bit of a background for you on what happened to him up in the north, because when people ask me like, oh, why should I pay you, or why shouldn't I just go and apply for a job that I see on a message board or something like that, I think this story is going to give you a little bit of clarity as to like why the service has value. And like, I stumbled upon doing this myself because I was teaching in Saigon in the public schools, and I saw such a discrepancy between what was being said online and what I was seeing in front of my eyes. So I felt like there was a lot of very dishonest actors out there, and there was a lot of people who were trying to either play up the situation and make it seem like you need to have like a master's degree in education in order to work in a public school, and then there was other people who were just doom and gloom about the situation, or they're trying to profiteer on it. And I just started kind of making videos telling people the reality about it. And over time, that turned into a small business. And then fast forward to the pandemic, we were getting people into Vietnam when it was a COVID-0 country, and the business expanded. We stopped just working with teachers, and we started working more with people who were looking to open up businesses, get long-term visas. And I think, the evolution of our business was something that just kind of happened. Like, I never initially planned it. Initially, my whole thing was just kind of catting off on YouTube about teaching, because I thought a lot of people were full of shit. So I was kind of trolling people a little bit, and just being like honest, because I know a lot of these guys don't want you to know the reality of teaching. And I want to tell you guys, just because you can live cheaply here doesn't mean that there's not a lot of problems teaching in a place like Vietnam or Cambodia or wherever you are, and Southeast Asia. There's going to be lots of things that are bad, right? So we can talk about some of the good stuff, like very good live-work ratio. The money that you're going to earn is going to go much further than a local person. But it's important to also discuss some of the negatives. And I think that's what sometimes one side of the argument kind of sugarcoats over. They don't necessarily give people, they give them the impression that they're going to be taking a corporate job working at like Bank of America or something. That is not what your experience is going to be like here in most circumstances. So I think we should delve really deeply into the Hanoi period, or I don't remember the name of the town. You'll tell us the name of the town in the clip, but near to Hanoi. And let's talk about some of the dysfunctions that he faced by just coming in as an outsider and not really understanding how it exactly worked or where he should work, and then hear a little bit about the journey and what went wrong.
Yeah, so my first experience before committing with your service fully was in a small provincial town, 1 hour kind of northeast towards China from Hanoi. Small town called Bac Giang, Bac Giang, BACGIANG, Bac Giang. Yeah, it was a bit of a rough experience for sure. I had kind of a blind faith in an employer I'd met on Facebook before the COVID situation happened. And the first red flag already showed up really in requesting my refund from the flight money before COVID happened, where she just delayed and made excuses for not giving me the flight money back. And then COVID calmed down and things we got past that, and borders and countries opened up again without any crazy requirements. And I was so excited with the time I'd spent wanting to teach for about a year or two that I just committed with this same one contact that I knew in the north, and she still had my flight money, so at least that was my leverage to go, hey, you should pay my flight up there. And in a way, it made me stay with her, even though I knew it was bad that she didn't refund that money when I asked it. And I thought, hey, I can have my first teaching gig with this school in the north. So we went ahead. However, within a week of being in Bac Giang and meeting her, the contract details that we'd agreed the year before had all been changed. 20 hours a week had now turned to 25 hours. My one day on the weekend off work changed to Wednesday. My salary was slightly less. There were 3 fundamental changes on the contract that I was disappointed and shocked about because it wasn't what we agreed the year before. However, I was trying to keep myself positive and just think, look, it's your first teaching job. Just do your best with it. So I kind of carried on for 2-3 months, but issues kept occurring, lack of appreciation. Well, that was just the small part, really. Frankly, abuse and disrespect, and yeah, just lots of crazy issues with how she was treating me. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, really. I'd get some weird messages off what I thought were random people whilst working with her, and it was actually her pretending to be a new employer in the town, and then again giving me some really strange messages after my classes with her, which is pretty bizarre. So then I continued. I'd done 3 months with her, and we arranged for a 4th month's extension on the business visa, and I was a little reluctant to do that 4th month with her. However, I went ahead with it, did the 4th month, and with all the issues that were unfolding and being in a small town where there was only 6 other English speakers working in this town, Bac Giang. So it was only a very small group of teachers, and it was an hour and 10 minutes away from Hanoi. So on my day off, Wednesdays, I really liked to try and go to Hanoi and find a little bit more stimulation because it was so overwhelming being in such a tiny town for me. And then that brought its own problems eventually, trying to enjoy a night out and riding home on my bike where I had a bike accident. Again, unhappy with the town I was in. Couldn't walk for 2 weeks, 7 stitches in my elbow. That was one symptom of the poor situation I'd found myself in. Then there was the 4th month, which was really disappointing as I expressed all my dissatisfactions with the lack of her contract agreements, which I'd said time and time again, look, we'll do things on your terms, that's fine for now. I'll do this your way, then that's fine for now. However, it's not what we agreed. Eventually that got a little too much for me, and I expressed my intention to want to go home and see family for a few weeks. And she immediately got upset about that on the phone and said, you can go for 1 week or $1,000 fine. And then she just hangs up the phone on me. And I knew I was in a really bad situation then. Tried my best to resolve it face to face in the centre. And I said, look, I know things were emotional yesterday on the phone. I had to come in and talk face to face. It's important you pay me the remaining salary. And she was almost seeing red ever since that little moment, and she just wouldn't budge, just like telling me I owe $1,000, I'm going to get blacklisted, just really crazy stuff, to be honest. A couple of my friends in my town were shocked as well, just to hear about it. I was showing them the messages she would send to me after I'd taught for her. Yeah, really bizarre experience, really. A bit of a rough ride. And it was, unfortunately, it was good to get away from that. However, I didn't know at the time, as I hadn't used Jay's service properly, and I didn't feel confident with how to reset from that situation, especially with the lack of funds due to my 4th month salary being kept. It was about 75 hours work she just kept because of whatever reason. So with a bit of help from family, I returned home, kind of with my tail between my legs, you know, a bit disgruntled with the experience. However, yeah, it inspired me to make sure I did commit to Jay's service, because I realised there were a lot of pitfalls and traps and situations where new teachers can be exploited because they don't know any different and they don't know how things are here. And I definitely made most of the mistakes a new teacher could make last year, 2022. And yeah, it was a big learning curve. And then using that experience and then going for the service properly with Jay and committing properly with the full contact setup and 24-hour support, which pretty much feels like, I felt so much better on the second occasion.
That was a crazy story, but it's not really that crazy because I've actually seen it a lot. It's actually very common even with some of the more corporate training centers, ones that from the outside appear to be very by the book. They want you to have all your documents. They're very rigid. But the reality when you get off the plane will be something entirely different. There's one that's quite notorious in Saigon. I'm not going to say their name, you know, for the sake of not making drama, but I'll just leave it out there that they have a well-known reputation, and they very often will promise foreigners the moon when they're overseas. And then when they come to the country, the contract that they agree to overseas will be very different than the contract that they're being asked to sign when they get to the country. And they'll be threatened with things like blacklisting and this kind of thing. Now, let me tell you a little bit about what blacklisting is, guys. If you overstay your visa, if it's found out that you have a business visa sponsored by a shell company, you can be blacklisted in Vietnam, right? So officially, it's actually not legal that these employers blacklist anyone. But Vietnam is not necessarily a place where the official rules are always the rules that work, right? Sometimes there's other rules that are at play that you're not aware of, and relationships that could be at play. So people who are connected maybe through family members or certain business relationships to people who are able to blacklist you can find ways to do this regardless of whether it's legal or it's not legal. So some of these employers, for example, may have family members that are related to the government or that have connections within the police or immigration, and they could potentially create a lot of problems for you. And even more so in a small province, because provinces are like little kingdoms. Essentially, the training center in town most likely knows every one of the police on a first name basis. Like, you know, this is small communities where it's a certain amount of families maybe in the entire area. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody does business with everybody. There's a certain way that things work. And you're basically at the mercy of the culture and of the attitude of the people. So where you work, and it can matter a lot. If you work in a small province near to somewhere in the north, like near to Hanoi, or in the middle of nowhere, somewhere near like Ninh Binh or something, you know, you're gonna have a vastly different experience than if you work in a small province near to Saigon or in the Mekong Delta. But there will be some similarities. Like in most of the country, you're essentially working in a small kingdom where, you know, the training center may have direct relationships to the local government. There's going to be a certain amount of money invested in you in order to get you a work permit and to get you legal to work in the country. If you have certain documents, it's going to be a bit cheaper for them, but if you don't, it could be quite an investment. So depending on whether or not the company is an honest actor or not, they may decide to take some money on the back end to cover the costs of whatever, you know, facilitation fees they need to pay to get the foreigner the paperwork, right? So you want to have everything transparent. You want to have everything kind of understood before you get involved with the people. Even with my service, I generally will recommend that once we put you into the network and we give you the contacts, that you still set a date for yourself to arrive in Vietnam on a tourist visa, so that you can just meet everybody face to face and make an assessment yourself of like which one you want to work with. Because we can give you all the connections in the world for employment, but ultimately at the end of the day, you need to sit across from them. You need to see what it's going to be like to do business with these people, what it's going to like to deal with these people. You need to feel the vibe. And I think it's very hard to do that if you're trying to secure the job from overseas, like through phone interviews and things like that. There's already a bit of a culture difference. When working with us, we can coach you a little bit on like what the business culture is like and what the Vietnamese expectations are, where their mindset is and what they're looking at trying to get out of the relationship. And I think it's important to remember, guys, that in 99% of the relationships in Vietnam, when it comes to business, everything is going to be transactional, right? So it's all about making money. This whole education thing is a business. That's ultimately the point of it. One of the reasons why the business is the way it is because this is how they're able to maximize the money they're making, right? So you can't really come in with an attitude that you're going to change things. You can't really come in with an attitude that you're like some, educator from the West. So you have to give these kids the proper education that they deserve. You have to just do whatever the employer wants you to do. You have to make sure the employer is a decent actor who's actually going to try to pay you on time and look after you and make sure that you're okay. There's a lot more factors than just teaching in a classroom, right? If you're working in the public school system, whether or not you do well at the job is not going to be about the quality of education you provide. It's going to be about whether or not the teacher's aide likes you. You can say the same for training centers, whether it's the teacher's aide or the staff that does the HR or the desk staff. If people like you, you have a better chance of being successful. If people don't like you, you're just not gonna last. It's more of a popularity contest than it is about your skill set. At some of the bigger international schools, you're gonna have like foreigners who are in certain positions of management and hiring. So you may deal with that kind of academia, ego kind of like craziness, but it's a different type of craziness than what you're gonna deal with doing business with the Vietnamese. So you have to know that going in. You have to also remember, and this is free, that generally the further south you go, the nicer the people are, the more open they are about foreigners, the warmer they are, the more likely they are to want to do business with you. And because remember that if you talk to a lot of people in Saigon, they have a really strong affinity to foreigners and they have a very large distrust for their government. Whereas the further you go away from the South, the more and more you're going to have people who are a little bit more on board with the government's message. So they're going to follow the rules in a different way. They're going to be a little bit more, insular and less exposed to outsiders. Whereas the South has always had this history of trade. Saigon has always been a commerce place. It was originally one of those free cities set up by the Chinese where, they allowed traders to come in and go. This has been a place where there's always been access to the sea because of the Mekong River, because of the Mekong Delta, because of the entryway to the South China Sea from all these rivers. I mean, this has always been a place that's been warm and receptive to foreigners. The further north you go, it's more mountainous, it's more difficult to grow food, it's a little bit more insular. People, are not as quite exposed to foreigners necessarily once you get outside of the large tourist cities. So the culture and how they perceive things and how they do business is going to be very, very different. So, if you do want to work in a province, I don't want you to be scared off. And I guess that's what we're going to talk about now is some of the differences, because now he's working in a province in the South. So now he has had the experience with the province in the north and then the province in the South. Now we want to kind of like go over a little bit and see maybe what that's been like what differences have you seen? Obviously, the business culture is probably still going to be dysfunctional, but do you think it's less abusive, less dysfunctional? And then I guess after that, we'll kind of wrap it up and I'll probably have him leave us with some final thoughts. Let's hand it over to our client and friend, Mr. Samuel from the UK.
Yeah, so having had that really bad experience on the first effort without going for the service properly in the north, I was a lot more confident and happy to go for it and make sure my second experience was better, having made the mistakes you'd already told me about and experiencing a lot of the things that you'd warned me about in the north. I set it up properly, like you just said as well, with a tourist visa to make sure I came into Ho Chi Minh City with ample time and freedom to negotiate and talk with various different employers instead of just putting all my eggs in one basket with one employer that I met on Facebook. So on this second occasion, I'd made plans to do a week or two in Ho Chi Minh City, comparing contracts and making sure I found a better place who I knew would, or at least had faith that they would treat me a lot better than the previous experience. And that's exactly what happened for me. With all the contacts that were a part of the service setup and the advice and support, I felt really confident. And within 1 week, I'd already had 2 online interviews. One of them offered a job. I think it was my 7th day in Ho Chi Minh City. I'd been offered 2 other jobs. And then just before I accepted a job in the city, I was still open-minded, you see, to working away from the city, as that is a bit of a preference for me, or at least it has been. So I managed to go to GoVap and meet another employer to compare the other 2 offers with another offer I found where this employer in GoVap, they offered me a chance to work in Tuy Hoa, which is a small provincial beach town. Very beautiful, really beautiful. The views and the natural beauty around the area is, significantly. It's really nice, and it helped me feel confident that was the place I wanted to work. It resonated with me as a place I wanted to be and work. A lot more beautiful than Bac Giang, frankly, with the mountains and the ocean and the beach so close. So I got offered this third or fourth contract, basically. And it was nice because I was sitting there looking at 4 different contracts, and I felt like I was in control, and I got to pick what suited me instead of just going all into the unknown, So it already felt better. And then, had a much better experience this last 4 months. Certainly wasn't perfect. There were issues, and wasn't perfect for sure. There were a few issues with late payments and whatnot, and some staff being unhappy with certain situations with this company. However, I'm trying to compare it to my first experience, and it was chalk and cheese, really. They were very reasonable and professional with how they treated me. I've just finished my 4th month with them. All the payments came in, sometimes on one occasion a couple of weeks late. However, everything else did go smoothly, and besides the fact they didn't follow through with the TRC and work permit, which they sat me down and told me they would. There were a few small issues with how they were handling other staff and a bit of dramas that went on in the centre, which made me want to not continue anyway. But basically, it was 10 times better than what I felt from Hanoi, from in the north. And not only that, it's in a beautiful town where I've connected with a few other foreign teachers and locals, a girlfriend, whatnot, and I have felt settled enough and happy enough to negotiate a new job with another school in that town. So now the 4 months experience I've had, it's linking up with another 3 or 4 months that I'm going to look forward to soon. And it's just been a really nice turnaround, and it's helped me feel confident in the whole picture, the whole idea of staying and working in Asia. Whereas last year, I was close to thinking, damn, I don't want to work in Asia. I don't want to be a teacher. That was horrible. Whereas now I know the process with visas. Having worked with Jay and Mish, I understand a lot of the intricacies with how to restart, whether it be a business visa or a TRC. I know all the information now that I need to know to add 1 and 2 together successfully without worrying and without going back to England. And the journey continues, really. And it's nice because I'm excited about the next chapter in my life now. I'm growing with my experience as a teacher. I'm always grateful that I've found these guys, really, because it did give me that real confidence boost that I think a lot of people, they might not know they need it, but you most likely do because there's so many little pitfalls and nuances that you'll find working here, as Jay mentioned, with the way they do business, the way they do culture, the way they have their cliques and stuff. It will take some experience for you to go through that and learn it. And it makes a world of difference if you've got that support from two people who've already done it. It really is a big support because it helps you feel like you're fast tracking your own experience. So it's been priceless, really, their service for me. And now I'm here continuing on to my next chapter in Tuy Hoa with a new company and, you know, a situation I'm really excited about. And there's always another chapter to look forward to because there's always another option. If you know how to work things here, there's always another option here. And it takes a bit of learning to understand that, I've realised. And I think if you don't have someone like Reborn abroad, if you don't have someone supporting you, it's very difficult and it will take you longer, and it can be quite stressful, just like my first experience was in Bac Giang in the north. And then, yeah, the difference is just remarkable. And now I'm in a place where I've always got some money on my bank. I'm always confident I can find the next job and travel across borders and reset and just, you know, hold the house together, really, and feel like I'm in control of my life, really. And it's just, yeah, like I say, there's a cost to it, but it's priceless, really, in my eyes. So, yeah, mega happy and looking forward to the next chapter.
Wow, that was a pretty wild story. I want you guys to leave in the comments what you think of his story. Have you ever had similar experiences teaching English overseas, working for bad employers? We'd love to hear about it in the comments. So please definitely, you know, leave us anything that you think would be interesting. And if you have any questions about the business or the service, please reach us on the Facebook fan page. But there's other contact information in the description below, so you can really get us on a number of different platforms. The fan page is just a little bit better because if we decide to work together, we're going to give you some customer references, and oftentimes those references are on Messenger, so it's just a little bit easier to start the conversation there. If you guys have enjoyed the content, take a second to subscribe because it helps us a bit. You know, we grow, we get more people to see about the service and about what we're trying to do. We're trying to help people from the West get more options, get better lifestyle, get more value out of their life in places that they may not have ever considered before. We started out doing the teaching thing, and then slowly we've expanded the business to other parts of Southeast Asia, Eastern Europe. We have contacts in Latin America. We're going to be heading over soon towards Europe as we're going to be working on our Italian passport. We already are working on our Italian passport, and we're going to have some content about that as well for you guys to look into. We're going to possibly be heading to either India or Nepal in April. So I'm excited about that. Look for that. There's going to be a lot of new content. We're going to try to unlock some interesting kind of expat-y digital nomad cities rather than your conventional tourism destinations. We're going to look at it more from the perspective of an expat and less so from, like, you know, seeing the Taj or things like that, right? We're going to try to find a cool place to, like, actually hang out and post up. So I think that'll be interesting content for you guys, and look for that. Check out our old videos. We have lots of videos on Southeast Asia. We have lots of videos on visas, and you can kind of look at some of the things that have happened over time and the things we've talked about over time. Once again, I want to thank you guys for watching, and, you know, don't be afraid to take chances because, you know, life is full of risks. You know, working with us, we can mitigate a lot of the serious risks, but ultimately you still need to come out here. You still need to see if it's right for you. And there are some people who are just not cut out to live in Southeast Asia because, you know, whether it be the culture or the pollution or the traffic or any other number of issues, for some people, it's just not the right fit. We've had clients that we've helped set up, got them good jobs. They lasted a month, they got sick, they didn't want to stay, they went back to their countries. So it really depends on the individual and what the individual's looking for. I don't believe in, like, upselling the place. Like, there's lots of things about Southeast Asia that are positive, and there's lots of things about it that are negative. Vietnam has an enormous population. There's problems with running out of fresh water. You know, it's got a lot of issues, but it also has an incredibly affordable cost of life, a beautiful laid-back culture. And, you know, there is a tremendous amount of business opportunity. If you've ever had experiences living, working, or doing business in China, Vietnam is a bit more of like a laid back, kind of slightly friendlier China. So you're going to see a lot of similarity in terms of mindset and certain things So I think that would be a little bit easier for an expat who's had that kind of experience. It will be a lot less developed than China and a lot more, Wild West in many respects. But there will be some cultural similarities. But if you're coming from a Western country and you don't have really any experience dealing with East Asia, these countries can really be confusing. And you can definitely get the wrong idea. You can think people are trying to get you when they're not. You can think people that appear to be on the up and up, are trying to do the right thing by you, but they're not. It's the land of smoke and mirrors. A smile isn't always a smile. Contracts don't really mean anything. They're kind of subject to change. You want to work for people that are good people, have good intentions, and we'll help you negotiate. We'll help you talk to them. We'll give you a lot of contacts. We know lots of people in HR if you're looking to do the English teaching thing. If you're looking to just live in Vietnam and not have to be accountable to any employer, you can reach out to us. We can help you guys, set up companies, investment visas. If you guys are in trouble and you've overstayed your visa, we can help you with blacklisting. So really, we can do almost anything you would need done in Vietnam. We can also assist you here in Cambodia, Laos, Thailand. I don't do much with the teaching in Thailand because it's not a really great market for the teaching. It's like here in Cambodia, we do have contacts, but I generally try to steer people more towards Vietnam because both in Thailand and in Cambodia, you're much more replaceable. The salaries are going to be comparably lower in most positions, not in all, of course. Thailand's a big country. It's going to have high paying jobs as well. But generally speaking, Vietnam is a lot easier place for you to go and actually save money and have a reasonable standard of living for what you're earning. So I tend to push people more in that direction. And like I said earlier, the mindset is a little bit more like China. So people are a little bit more entrepreneurial and eager to kind of make money with you. And you could potentially, network and build something really good for yourself. And if teaching is your main focus, I think the opportunities for one-on-ones and for, group classes and for these type of things in Vietnam are exponentially bigger than in some of the other markets. But if you are particularly interested in a specific place, reach out to us, whether it be for teaching or just for long-term visas or connections for real estate or any other type of business you'd like to do. And if you have any questions about anything, reach us on the Facebook fan page because we can also offer hourly consulting. And just to not waste my time or waste your guys' time, I charge hourly, but then what I do is I apply whatever you pay hourly towards a larger service. So it's really not a charge. If you're going to ultimately work with us, it's going to go towards that. So, just keeps everybody on the same page, keeps everything fair. I'm not giving away lots of free information because I feel like I give away a lot of free information through the channel already. And I give a lot of insight into what it's like living out here, doing business out here. And I think that's, really helped a lot of people over the years. So when people contact me directly, it should be definitely with the understanding that if we're going to work together, I got to be compensated for my time. So thank you for watching the video. I hope it was helpful. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And like I said, if you want to have a kind of, not sugar-coated, kind of very plain, straightforward view of living as an expat, working as a teacher, living overseas, in our case now acquiring our second passport, in my wife's case, her third passport, then this is a good channel because we don't dress it up and we don't make it seem like it's something it's not. We just want to give you guys honest assessment so that you can make the decisions that are right for you.
Brush your face and wash your teeth, son.
Hey, what's up? I'm D from Canada. Hook up with the New York Nomad if you want a smooth ride into Vietnam or any Southeast Asian countries.
Hey, my name is Aaron. Get in contact with the New York Nomads. If you want to get into Vietnam, hit them up. They'll get you in securely and professionally.
Yo, this is Uncle Hollywood. I'm telling you right now, the New York Nomad got me a job. He's legit. Hit him up. Check him out.
New York Nomad set me up in Vietnam.
Yo, my man got me a job. Come to Vietnam.
Hey, what's up, guys? You thinking about coming to Vietnam? You're not sure where to start. You've heard a lot of things online. You don't know what's true. You don't know what's not. We offer a consulting service where we help you get on your feet in Vietnam. We give you advice on negotiating contracts with employers. We help you with real estate agents, visa agents that are reliable and that you can trust. We help you get started in this amazing country and get on your feet. We help you get into different opportunities that might be more difficult for you if you were just landing in the country on your own. And we help you avoid a lot of the pitfalls and problems that you could have as a newcomer here. We provide you with reliable job recruiters, visa agents, real estate agents, and advice. If you guys are thinking about coming to Vietnam, hit us up for a consultation. We'll help you get started, help you get on your feet, and hopefully you'll love Vietnam as much as we do.